Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. As usual, always Penguins topics to discuss today, including some more head coaching rumors, or at least two of the Penguins' assistant head coaches are in head coaching rumors. Something about Bruce Cassidy and why I think everyone should be grateful that Mike Sullivan is still here. We're going to continue our player season reviews with Teddy Blueger today, how his regular season was, what happened in the playoffs, what should we expect going forward, and a pretty big announcement from the Penguins and the Fenway Sports Group with managing PPG Paints Arena. That's all coming up right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at @LoneStorePenguins. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So there was news around 8:30 this morning. The Penguins put out a press release saying the Fenway Sports Group, which of course owns the Pittsburgh Penguins now, they have selected the Oakview Group to manage PPG Paints Arena. And what that is, they're basically this group is going to modernize the arena a little bit. I mean, the PPG has been here since 2010. That was the inaugural season, right after the Penguins lost to the Montreal Canadiens in 7 games when they basically got Yaroslav Halak. And in the press release, it's going to manage, book, and operate PPG. And this company, they manage some world-class arenas around the country. The UBS Arena, home of the New York Islanders, Climate Pledge Arena, home of the Seattle Kraken, two of the best NHL arenas, I think, at this point, in my opinion. The Seattle arena, from the photos I have seen, are really nice. The UBS Arena absolutely blows. The Nassau Coliseum right at the building. It's also going to manage the company, the Arizona State University Arena, where the Arizona Coyotes are set to play for the foreseeable future. Also, this takes place July 1st, and they are going to retain PPG's existing local management team and all of the arena workers. So that is probably the biggest, the biggest news I took out of that. No one really has to go looking for a job or anything like that. But, this can only be good things for the Penguins. Kevin Acklin, who's the COO of the team, said that this is a rising, innovative leader in arena management, and we are proud to welcome their partnership at PPG Paints Arena. They recognize the strength and resilience of Pittsburgh's fan base and the quality of our venue, and we're thrilled to partner with them to focus on the future of sports and live entertainment in Pittsburgh. So I will be curious to see, what kind of, if there's big renovations to happen for the arena, but that's probably not going to be for many more years now. Just, what changes do they make, inside and potentially even outside for the arena. So that was the first big news of today. And then I listened to 32 Thoughts, the podcast, and for anyone that doesn't listen to another podcast outside of mine, if there are people like that out there, and if you are, I love you, obviously. Go listen to what their stuff with Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman. They are the cream of the crop, I think, in terms of hockey podcasts in this country and around the world, to be honest. And so Elliot Friedman they got to the coaching segments, and Friedman said it sounds like the Chicago Blackhawks are planning to interview Todd Reirden of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I was definitely caught off guard by that. I was of the opinion when he came back to Pittsburgh that he probably is not going to get another head coaching job again because of what happened in Washington. I mean, sure, they made the playoffs, but they never really won a round. The power play was not as good when he was there. The team, again, they still finished, top 3 in the Metro basically every year, but I think the Capitals just, they didn't really do much of a coaching search after Barry Trotz left for the Islanders. They just promoted from within. I think that was potentially a mistake there. But it was interesting to hear that. And, Merrick mentioned that Reardon has a long history of working with defensemen. Obviously, he's done a great job with Mike Matheson with the Penguins. Chris Letang had another tremendous season. John Marino started to really get going in the playoffs. Marcus Patterson was really good all season long. Chad Riedel, steady as she goes on the number 6 pairing. Even Mark Friedman, I thought, really made some headway this year. So I can definitely see why Chicago's interested in him from that kind of standpoint, because, Seth Jones is their top D-man. He's definitely regressed these last couple of years. If he can get back to the way he played in Columbus for a couple of those years when he was there, that makes their defensive core suddenly look a lot better. He also does have head coaching experience. He's gotten teams to the playoffs. But I don't think that would be the right fit for Reardon, because I think the Blackhawks are still a ways away. I'm going to mute or close my laptop there. I apologize about that. But anyways, getting back to what I was saying, I just don't think the Hawks are relatively close to being a playoff team. I mean, there's a rumor, I think Elliot Friedman said it on, I think it was Hockey Night in Canada over the weekend, where outside of Taves, Kane, and Seth Jones, the Hawks are listing on any and everything. So they're open for business. I got to think those big 3 players that are not available for trade know that this is probably going to be a pretty long, a decently long rebuild, I think. And, Alex DeBrincat is, probably their version of Jake Ensel, even though Jake is better. Dylan Strome is a good player there. Obviously they traded Brandon Hagel, got a good return back for him. They traded Fleury at the deadline. I'm curious to see what direction that team is going in here. Are they committed to a really long rebuild, like 4 to 5 to potentially I'm going to turn the TV off here, 4 to 5 to potentially 6 years? Or do they want to really speed this up and go, 2 years we want to be back to contention, or 3 years or something like that? And then Friedman also confirmed that Mike Vellucci had a very long interview for the Philadelphia Flyers head coaching job. So both Penguins assistants are getting a lot of head coaching buzz right now. If both of them were to leave, and right now I personally don't expect that to happen, just because there's so many great candidates out there right now. I mean, Bruce Cassidy was somehow fired today. Barry Trotz, David Quinn, if you want to classify him as a good candidate, Rick Bowness, Jim Montgomery, Scotty Arneal, et cetera, et cetera. So, I don't expect the 2 Penguins assistant coaches to get a head coaching gig, but it also wouldn't surprise me if, at least maybe one of them did. I don't expect both to go. That's for sure. But, it does speak volumes about, how the rest of the league, views these 2 coaches, and that, Jim Rutherford, even though Mike Sullivan didn't get to handpick his last staff, Rutherford, did a pretty good job assessing a couple of the assistant coaches when he was here next to Sullivan. Vellucci, his resume speaks for itself. He has a lot of experience coaching and managing wise down in the AHL, has coached for numerous NHL teams throughout his tenure, did a really good job with the team's penalty kill up until the playoffs this year. Reardon, the power play could use some work. I would not, if he were to leave and take that job in Chicago, or potentially another job, I think they could get someone, equally or potentially better than him with regards to a power play, so that gets fixed for next year. So, they don't really, they don't just stink in the playoffs like they did against the Rangers, though they definitely will miss the presence of being just a coach that's very good with defensemen. So that's where I think the big loss will be there. And then for Vellucci, obviously the penalty kill was a team strength this year. But honestly, the PK has been a strength of this team. Going back to when Jacques Martin was hired, back in 2014, even during the, the early Dan Bilesville years, this team, was killing penalties very well. So, they can definitely, I think, bring in someone here who can run a pretty good penalty kill. Too. There's plenty of assistant head coaches who would probably jump for this job to work under Mike Sullivan. So again, as of right now, I don't see both of them leaving. One of them potentially could go, but I think you're going to see at least, in terms of Sullivan, Reardon, and Vellucci on the bench, I think at least 2 of those 3 will be back, because obviously Mike Sullivan is not going anywhere. And, by the off chance that both do walk, the Penguins will have a pretty big opportunity. Mike Sullivan will get to finally handpick his own staff. I don't think Ron Hextall would go out and just make the moves for him. I think, Mike would want to have the say that he deserves, when assembling his staff. He's probably going to want to have the best staff that he can have if both of these coaches do end up moving on. So that's the latest Penguins news from today on Monday, both the coaches and the announcement with the arena and the potentially some renovations coming in the next few years or definitely down the line as well. Coming up in my next segment, we're going to get into Teddy Blueger's season review as we chug along. We're almost, we're getting close to being through all of the forwards here at this point. But our next partner has a product that I literally use every single day. I started taking Athletic Greens because, I wanted better gut health. I wanted more energy in the morning. I sometimes only get, 6 to 6.5 hours of sleep. I've been on it for about a month and a half, 2 months. I absolutely love it. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy. It has kind of a mild tropical taste, but I actually enjoy looking forward to it each morning. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you'll be absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, and probiotics to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It supports better sleep quality and recovery. You can support mental clarity and alertness. It's the one thing with the best things. Athletic Greens uses the best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product irritations and third-party testing. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. And that's it. There's no need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on follow the show's Twitter at @L_Penguins. I am definitely having a case of the Mondays today. I'm just like screwing up so many words and all this. I have no idea what's going on. Maybe it's because I've been just watching this crazy Colorado Edmonton game that's 5-5 as I'm recording. That's about to go into overtime. It is absolutely, that was a nutty third period, to say the least. But, let's get to the next season review on the list. And this is Teddy Blueger, the Penguins' fourth line center. Getting to him here on natural stat trick. Nope, I do not want to click Jeff Carter. So Blueger this season, 65 games played. When he was on the ice, the Penguins had only 48.3% of the shot attempts. They had 59% of the actual goals, which is good. 51% of the expected goals, which is the highest of his career. Only 49% of the scoring chances, 52% of the high danger chances for, 65% of the high danger goals for, so 23 high danger goals for, 12 high danger goals against. Shot 8.6% this year, a little down from his 9.3% last year. At 5v5 this year, 23 total points, 7 goals, 16 assists. He was fine during the regular season, and he always, I feel like, is fine during the regular season. But the last 2 years in the playoffs, you all want, these are some damning stats that I'm about to throw at you. Again, for the regular season in total, 9 goals, 28 points in 65 games. That was actually a career high for him. He's still searching for his first double-digit goal season. But, when you get to the playoffs, look at this. In 4 seasons, he's played 10 playoff games, 2 points in 10 games. That's unacceptable. It's not good enough. It's bad. And he's gotten plenty of quality chances these last 2 years, and the fact that he only has 1 goal, which came, that that came in the bubble against Montreal in 2019-20, against the Islanders last year. No points in the 6 games, even though Brandon Tanev was an absolute menace. This year, only 1 assist in 7 games. I don't think enough people are talking about that. This team is very deep. But when you have a player like that that's not showing up, even though he's had really good regular seasons, and he's just coming off a summer where the team protected him in the expansion draft, you have to produce better when the games matter most. I understand that it's a small sample size, but when your stars are getting shut down at times, and I know Sidney Crosby and Jake Gensel were otherworldly in the playoffs this year, and I know Evgeny Malkin was mostly okay with 6 points in 7 games. Still, you need your depth players to chip in a goal from time to time. Look at the Rangers kid line with Hedl, Lafreniere, and Kakko. They're absolutely tormenting teams during their playoff run, and they're up 2-1 on the Lightning right now. Blueger, he's been at it for 3 full seasons. 2 points in 10 playoff games since he's come into the league and be a regular. That's not good enough for me. I think the time is now for him to really show who he is as a player and for him to take that next step. He deserves to be on this team. I will 100% stand by that. I think he's a great penalty killer. I mean, the team had a 3-on-5 goal last season against the Capitals. That was the Penguins' first 3-on-5 goal in over 2 decades. And, he's good at even strength. I like his shot when it's on. He has he has a nice first pass. He's good at carrying the puck into the zone. But, obviously when all of that goes away, there's not much there. But, I still want to see more consistency from him as he enters his 4th full season in the NHL, 5th overall one. He doesn't make that much money. I mean, obviously you don't want your 4th line center to make up a good chunk of your salary cap, but I still expect more from someone who, I think people hype up a lot more than they should right now. And don't get me wrong, I like Teddy Blueger. I think he's a good 4th line center. He's a good depth piece for a contending team, but you probably can't ask him to play, 3rd line minutes or even 2nd line minutes if you need to. I always see people on social media, tweeting, if Jeff Carter's out, maybe Blueger can sign up there and play 3rd line minutes. And, wow, that may be true. And he doesn't get caved in his own zone like Carter does. Carter also had almost 20 goals this year. He's still better than him offensively, even if, Carter is not, what he once was, to say the least. Because again, Blueger doesn't even have a double-digit, goal scoring season yet on his resume. His underlying numbers, again, that they are what they are. If we want to go to the playoffs now and take a look at that, 7 games, 50% of the shot attempts for the Penguins at even strength, expected goals for 56%. So, that's encouraging, at least 50% of the scoring chances, 50-50 for high danger scoring chances, no high danger goals against. His shooting percentage, though, only 4%. It was 4.7% last year, 6.25 in 2019-20 when he had that goal. But, I don't know. Maybe it was because he doesn't have Brandon Tanev and Zach Aston-Reese on that line, especially Aston-Reese. They were so great together as a center winger duo. That could have played a part in him struggling down the stretch, but he also was banged up for a decent chunk in the second half of the regular season. I'm also wondering if that contributed to him not being as good down the stretch and in the playoffs. Again, do I want Teddy Blueger on this team next year? Yes. Again, he's a good contending player. He's a good player to have on a team that wants to contend. But if say a team wants him in trade talks and the Penguins can get someone back that's maybe a bit better offensively but doesn't play as well defensively, I would definitely look into that and see if that kind of situation makes sense. I don't think he's off limits or anything like that. I think he's a 4th line center, for God's sakes. I mean, can you do worse than him? Yes. Can you do better than him? Also, yes. I don't think that's going to be an area of need for the Penguins over the offseason. I think Hextall is going to be, comfortable with Blueger for that 4C spot. But I also, in the back of my mind, I wouldn't be surprised if they potentially dangle him in trade talks, even though it probably won't happen. Again, I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised. to say the least. So to sum it all up, I want to see more consistency from him. He's not played well in the playoffs the last couple of years. That needs to change if the Penguins do want to potentially go on one more long run for Sidney Crosby's tenure. And that may sound silly to some of you all, and I get it. A fourth line center can only expect you to do so much, but I also expect more than 2 points, in 10 playoff games in 4 years. Sorry, I expect a lot more than that. Excuse me, I almost just screwed that up. It wasn't even 10 games. I did not have my glasses on here. It is 18 games, 2 points in 18 games. So I apologize for that. I don't know what the heck. Again, I am having the case of the Mondays right now, but the point still stands. 2 points in 18 games is not going to cut it. That's really bad. So hopefully we do see more of him next year, and I'll be curious to see if he potentially gets some new line mates during the offseason. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to get into some pretty big news that happened today around the league that, I just want people to understand just how, blessed we should be to have Mike Sullivan as the Penguins head coach. But before we get to that, betonline.net is your number one source for all of your betting stats and sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including this year's basketball championship matchup between the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics, the hockey conference finals, the Major League Baseball, and of course, all the latest fighting news from MMA and UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. You can head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action that is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. Oh man, give me 1 second here. So I had to pause the recording a little bit. I have been coining a new hashtag on my Twitter with the hashtag HodesJinx. I tweeted that, it looked like we're going to go back to Denver, especially when the Oilers were up 3-1 and 4-2. That did not happen. The Avalanche just won the game in overtime, 6-5. They're going to their first Stanley Cup final in 20 years. And the Old Takes Exposed count retweeted to me. So I definitely made it, to say the least. That is a moment I will not live down. I'm just becoming Andrew Filipponi, I think, at this point, with all the jinxes. I mean, it's just basically a kiss of death for me at this point. But, getting back to the news that we saw today, I'm not going to put those on. Bruce Cassidy was fired by the Boston Bruins in a move that really did not make a lot of sense to me. He's probably one of the 5 to 6 best coaches in the league. He led the Bruins to the 3rd most wins in the league during his tenure. He got them to within 1 game of winning the Stanley Cup in 2019. The Bruins gave the Hurricanes everything they could handle in the first round of the playoffs this year. They had Tuukka Rask literally retire midway through the season, and Allmark and Swayman did what they could. They battled numerous injury problems like they have every year. Obviously, it's nothing like the Penguins, but they still battled through them. And Cassidy, he always had them ready to play every single night. And for some reason, Don Sweeney and Cam Neely decided to move on. And, this should serve as a reminder to you all, yes, you Penguins fans that listen to this show, how grateful we should be that we have a management right now, knock on wood, that appreciates Mike Sullivan. Because if they were to fire him, he would have a job in 5 minutes. He is one of the 3 best coaches in the league. What he has done since he came in late 2015 for this organization is absolutely amazing. I know they've had a few first-round exits here in a row, but, I'm not really going to blame that on him, just like I'm not really going to blame the Bruins' problems Bruce Cassidy. It's kind of funny. I was reading some Bruins fans' tweets on my timeline today, and they were saying, it kind of has to do with Don Sweeney and Cam Neely making some pretty questionable roster decisions. And sure enough, I think that's been the case for both Ron Hextall and Jim Rutherford. I think both general managers really haven't helped Mike Sullivan's case. And if he was to get fired, even if it was somehow later down the offseason or, next year maybe, or, even if it was this year or the year before that, or year before that, it wouldn't have been his fault for the team going sideways, because of mistakes that these regimes have made, such as the Jared McCann situation, the Jack Johnson contract, Justin Schultz being really bad his last year, trading for Eric Goodbranson, trading for Ryan Reeves, literally going away from speed and skill after you won back-to-back cups to try to get heavy because Sidney Crosby was taking a couple of stupid shots. I'm telling you, Ryan Reeves is not going to prevent those from happening here, to say the least. So I just wanted to spend, this small segment here touching on how, fortunate we all should be that Sullivan is the Penguins coach. Look at Barry Trotz. Even he was fired for literally no reason at all because Lou Lamoriello, just wants to promote from within, and he felt like the team needed a change. When, in all honesty, the team did not need a change there. They probably need a change in the front office. I mean, is Barry Trotz the one trading 2 second-round picks? Trading Devon Taves for 2 second-round picks? No. He's. I don't think Barry Trotz is also signing a bunch of old vets to 2 to 3 to 4 year contracts. And I could say the same here with Jim Rutherford over the years. Even the Matt Hunwick situation. Ron Hextall with bungling the expansion draft, and maybe not getting a goalie during the last offseason, and maybe giving too many years to begin and all that. None of these things are on Sullivan. So, it's crazy that, some of the best head coaches in the league, are the scapegoats for bad front office decisions for the overall team. It's something in hockey that I wish would go away for me. But that will do it for this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I hope you all enjoy listening to this one. I apologize for having a case of the Mondays here. That is not going to be the case on Tuesday, where we are back with a fresh new episode talking about the beloved Pittsburgh Penguins. Hopefully there are some contract news coming here at some point. So again, thank you all so much for listening, and I will talk to you all on Tuesday.